Now I want to ask you. I know you got stuff you got to do, man. But
Sorry.
I have to ask you this question, man. And you've been asked about it a million times, but
Yeah.
I still remember that incident back in
In
'04 with the
Detroit.
Pistons, and yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Right.
And I've talked to friends about that many times over the years because the NBA, from what I understand, issued one of the worst penalties ever given in the history of the league when that happened.
Right. Yeah.
It was hard to see this happen and not see the racial undertones of this.
Right.
We want to send a message because the scary black man has frightened the folks in the crowd, and
Right.
and
Right.
we want to make sure that we set an example so all the other guys know this will happen to you if you get out of line. And
Right.
this really took me back to slavery because when a black man showed any type of aggression, they would punish him severely in front of
Right.
the other
Right.
black men to emasculate those men, to make them
Right.
fearful of what will happen. Am I talking crazy when I say this? I mean, has anybody brought up sort of the racial undertones in terms of how all that went down for you?
Well, nobody really brought it up because it's two things. When you're talking about, the NBA, I feel like I was, I feel 20% of that punishment was justified. I feel like the other 80% wasn't because I didn't throw an object on myself.
Mm,
It was actually thrown from somebody else. I was having a great game, and I was doing a lot of other things, seeing psychologists and trying to turn my life around. But at that point, I was very upset because somebody threw something that hit me in the face. So I went to attack that person. Um, but there's no question that obviously, racism exists, and who knows, right? Who knows racist, who's not, So that's one of the conspiracies. Was there a little bit of racism involved? But I do
mm,
believe like I deserve some of the punishment. Definitely, not all of the punishment.
mm.
Um, and but the guy who actually threw the cup at me, now we're friends now. I actually reached out to him. Cause I don't like to be on this world. I believe in energy, and I don't like to have uh, energy that is not compatible. I feel like all energy is compatible. I didn't want to the rest of my life mad at one human being, for something. So actually, even though I lost $7 million, for that incident, I reached out to him. We're actually friends now.
Wow,
Me and,
wow.
and a white gentleman.
Well, I love that. I'm glad it came full circle for you, and
Yeah.
I'll tell you this. I agree with you 100%. When I saw that go down, clearly, it maybe better judgment could have been made. We know that, right? But
Right.
you were what, 24, 25 years old at the time. So you're a young guy. This crazy thing happens. You respond with justifiable anger,
Right.
and so yeah, a punishment was called for. But what I
Yeah.
saw was just this excessive hammering to the point where it was a little bit like the thing that happened with Spreewell a few years
Right.
earlier,
Right. Right. Right.
with PJ Carlesimo, where it was almost it had a racial undertone to me because it was almost like we're going to punish this person so severely that
Right.
we're going to just make sure that you won't even think about expressing even justifiable anger. That will be punished as well.
If, if someone ever throws something at me in my face and I can see him at arm's distance, I'm just not going to ever let anybody throw something in my face. And right now, I'm at a point now where I changed my beliefs a little bit. I meditate a lot. I'm into Zen and into Sage and into all that stuff. I got my singing bowl, and I could be in the middle of my singing bowl, my Tibetan singing bowl, and my suede wand. And if somebody throws something in my face, I'm gonna immediately come out of my meditation mode, and I'm gonna like address the issue. So that that couldn't have been any different, no matter what point in my career I was in. Now obviously it happened to me before, so I probably would know how to address it. But
Mm.
at that point in time, first time instance, if that would have happened to anybody, I think they would have reacted the same way.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think that. Yeah, I don't know. I know personally that I definitely wouldn't have sat there and let something like that happen. So I think a lot of people got what you went through and they understood it and took your side on it. I think it's important, as you mentioned, with social media, that we get a chance to have conversations like this,
Yeah.
which wouldn't have happened, in the early '90s. You and I wouldn't have been
Right.
able to talk in a public forum about something like this. So it
Right.
almost seems like the whole world is kind of crashing down on you. But
Right.
there are people in
That's how it felt, man. That's how it felt, man.
really.
I felt like the world was over. I was young. I was a bad partner at that time. I think I was married, but I was a young parent, so I was going into the league with all sorts of problems. experimenting with all types of alcohol and smoking a little bit and still had the ghetto mind frame and then that happened. So now I think every white person in the world is bad, because that's how the media made it seem. But then a couple of years passed, I started to realize not everybody has the same opinion as, people making up certain stories and things like that. I started to open up more, started to find myself a little bit more. But yeah, I had one point in my life where I just hated everybody because everybody blamed me for something I didn't do, and I felt like I was at the mercy, of the media, and I was at the mercy of other people. It was a bad feeling.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you what, man, you made a great comeback. A lot of people might have thought counted you out after that. And,
Yeah,
you came back, had a great career, man, won a world championship. And more importantly to me, you've become a very intelligent, mature, conscientious black man, which to me is the greatest contribution you can make to the world, man. So I congratulate you on that, brother.